For those of you who are not from the Tampa area, I am the mayor of Tampa. I'm Bob Buckhorn, B-U-C-K-H-O-R-N. And joining me is the Chief of Police, Tampa Chief of Police, Chief Jane Castor. We're going to be doing these every day throughout the course of the convention just to make sure that we can update both local press and national press on what's going on. Obviously, the questions will vary. I never thought as mayor I'd be talking about millibars as opposed to millage rates, but you know, given the weather circumstances, that is what I do these days. So we will come here every day and just give you an update as to what has happened either the day before, the night before, from either a logistical perspective or from a transportation perspective. And you know, we will answer any of your questions and are happy to do so. As it stands right now, things are running smoothly. Obviously, the RNC made the decision to postpone the events by a day. That was the appropriate decision. Obviously, there were some issues potentially if the storm had developed for high-profile vehicles crossing the bay, if we had had to close some bridges. But as of right now, it looks like it will be a relatively normal storm. As storms go, no issues involving storm surge. If the track continues the way it is, there will be some high winds coming in bands tomorrow, and there'll be some heavy rain coming in bands as well. But other than that, everything should run smoothly, and as far as I can tell, the city is prepared. We are going through our normal preparations that we would go through for any storm of this size. Sandbags are available for our residents, and we are in the appropriate mode based on the appropriate conditions. So other than that, things are running smoothly. The event at the Trop obviously will continue today, and tomorrow will be certainly the first day of this. We don't know what to anticipate in terms of protests because the convention has been delayed a day. But in any case, we will be prepared for whatever comes. Chief, you got anything?
Any questions?
Yes, ma'am.
What about sandbagging effort?
We have 3 locations available for residents for sandbagging. We do not anticipate any significant tidal surge. The nature of this storm is it's a relatively fast-moving storm, and so the opportunity for any significant surge is diminished by the fact that it will move quickly through the Gulf of Mexico, as opposed to Debbie. For those of you who were not here a couple weeks ago, we had a tropical storm that sat out in the Gulf and pushed a lot of water through the bay. And this is not what this storm looks like. This storm is going to move quickly. It will not be more than probably a 18-hour occurrence, and then we'll be heading up the Gulf of Mexico towards the Panhandle. So we don't think that there's going to be a significant need for sandbags. We have sandbags here if necessary, but we don't anticipate having to deploy them. The forum is in flood level B. The convention center is in flood level A. Obviously, A is worse than B, lower than B, but we don't think that there's going to be an issue at all. But if so, we're prepared to deal with it. It's more for some of the areas low-lying areas in the city that collect water anyway during normal occurrences, and so that's why we've made the sandbags available.
Chief, can you talk a little bit about what you're seeing from the protesters so far as they're settling in, and whatever you know about the couple that were arrested last night?
We didn't have any arrests of protesters. We had some individuals that were trespassed from specific areas, but there was a lot of demonstration activity in Ybor City, but for the most part, a normal Saturday night in Ybor City. Everyone was peaceful and expressed themselves in whatever form they saw necessary.
With the first day of the convention postponed, are you expecting to see what you were already expecting from protesters tomorrow? Do you think that is going to give them a reason to wait a day? Maybe they won't be here?
No, we're in communication with everyone who has the intention of an organized march, and we're talking to them as the storm relates to their activities, and you know, the normal warnings that we would give to all of our citizens to see if they want to postpone that for another day or if they want to continue on, how we can assist them in that way. But we don't know that it's going to make a big difference in the demonstration activities, especially as the forecasts continue. The storm is tracking a little further off of the Florida coast, and so the better the weather gets, the more activity that we'll see tomorrow.
The ones that you're in communication with, and they're still planning tomorrow?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Do you have a message for them in case, you know, they want to stay out, rain or shine, and about staying safe and, you know,
yes, right. When you get high winds, a lot of people that are coming here aren't from Florida and they're not used to this. This is kind of old hat for us. We go through these drills every year this time. So we are telling them the same message that we were giving before, safety-wise, as it pertained to the heat. You know, telling people that weren't used to the heat down here, that how they had to hydrate, stay out of the sun. And now, as it applies to the storm, the high winds and not necessarily the sustained winds, but the gusts that they may not be used to. And the tropical storm hurricanes are relatively predictable. Tornadoes are not. So those are things that we're cautioning them to again, remain aware, and we'll be providing as much of that information as we possibly can throughout the day to everyone that's out and about in the downtown area.
You're not making any recommendations to demonstrators as to whether they should postpone or go ahead? Or...
No, that's their choice. We provide them with the information that we have at hand, and then they can decide if they're going to continue with it. If it becomes an issue of public safety, which it doesn't appear that that's going to be the case right now, but if that storm takes a turn and, you know, we have to make that decision based on public safety, then we're going to make it. But at this point, it doesn't appear as that's going to be the case. It's going to be some bad weather, driving rain at times, wind gusts, and we'll communicate all of that, and we'll be out there with them.
Yeah, the city's temporary ordinance does provide for calling off permitted events, parades, under certain weather conditions. Do you anticipate that you're going to see those?
No, we don't anticipate that we're going to see those. And as I said before, you know, as time goes on, that Storm Isaac is tracking further and further west, which is that much better for us. But what I've said before is the only predictable element of these storms is the unpredictability, so they can always change.
How high do the winds have to be blowing to close down the bridges?
Based on information from the Highway Patrol, if you have sustained winds of over 40 miles an hour, they will close the bridges. They will probably close the Sunshine Skyway quicker than they will close the others. But, you know, then it becomes a logistical issue of moving the delegations, most of whom are staying on the Pinellas side of the bay, and routing them up through the mainland and down Hillsborough Avenue and into downtown. And with the nature of these storms, you may not get sustained 40-mile-an-hour winds, but you may get bands of 40-mile-an-hour winds. So obviously we would play it by ear depending on what the conditions are.
And what message do you have for delegates?
Well, I mean, I think they're going to enjoy a day off, you know, spend money. Yeah, have a hurricane party. We'll send the blenders. You know, I think it's an opportunity for them to partake in some of the great indoor activities that are here in the Bay Area, some of the attractions.
Is there a sense of disappointment at all from the city that we're talking about storms now instead of having, you know, the clear blue skies,
Yeah.
bright sunshine that Florida's known for? Is there any sense of disappointment now that we're talking about a storm and, you know, the convention's pushed back a day and things aren't going exactly as we would have liked, you know, a few months ago? You
know, I can control a lot of things as mayor. The weather's not one of them. So we're Floridians. I mean, we deal with this, Josh. It's part of our life. This time of year, we expect to have to deal with it at some point. I think, you know, the opportunity to showcase this city for the next 3 days is available to us, and we intend to do it. Certainly the storm, there have been more mentions of Tampa in the last 3 days because of Isaac than we could have ever imagined. And so, I mean, it is what it is, and we deal with it. We'll be judged equally critically as to how we handle it. And so, you know, I tend not to worry about the stuff that I can't control, and you know, we're looking forward to getting through this, which we will, and moving on to Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. My only concern is that they don't drop me from the speakers roster, since I am the only Democrat speaking at the Republican National Convention.
Mayor, to take that a step further, yeah. I'm sure you've seen the commentary. It was a mistake to have a convention in Florida in August. Now that it has actually curtailed the proceedings, Any response to that?
No, I don't think it's a mistake. I mean, I think folks make decisions about where to locate conventions for a lot of different reasons. Obviously, when we went through this process 2 years ago with Chairman Steele, everyone knew that Florida, in the middle of the summer, in the middle of hurricane season, that is always a possibility. The statistical possibility was virtually negligible. I mean, we haven't had a direct hit here in Tampa in 90 years. We're going to keep that record going this week. But I think the beauty of Tampa and the beauty of the Bay Area and the amenities here far offset any potential weather risk. You know, it pushed it by a day. These delegates are going to have a great time irrespective of the weather, and we're going to put on a great show for the RNC.
With no activities going on tomorrow, will the crosstown remain closed?
Yes. Yep.
Do you agree with the decision to postpone and delay the Monday proceeding?
I do. I think the RNC made the right decision for the right reasons. They are just as concerned about the safety of their delegates as I am about my citizens and the visitors that are here. And so I think they recognize that while they could probably have gone forward with it, just that minimal potential risk of sustained winds coming across the bridge and having to refigure the transportation logistics, it was the appropriate decision, and I appreciate the fact that they did.
How often are you in contact with Chairman Priebus and the RNC? On a daily basis, times a day?
I see the RNC more than I see my wife. And we have been at this for a year and a half, and it truly has been a team effort. We don't make any decisions without consulting our partners, and that includes the governor. The governor's doing a briefing about an hour from now at Tampa's EOC. And so we really have been at the table, and I think it's important because all of us who have a stake in this process need to be reacting to the same information at the same time and the same data at the same time to make the appropriate decisions, and that's exactly what we have done throughout this. And so, you know, it really has been a great partnership, and we literally are seamless and will continue to be for the next 4 days.
Mayor, has anybody
Yes,
asked
sir.
about the National Guard? I'm sorry, Joe Jones.
Yeah, no, hey Joe, how you doing?
Good. There have been some concerns, and if you know, give us some sense of how the National Guard are going to be used. Are all of the National Guard available to the governor going to be used here in the city of Tampa? Are they going to be dispersed depending on what the weather does? What's your information?
Well, again, much of that depends on the weather. Largely, the Guard is held in reserve. I mean, we have ample law enforcement personnel that, as you can see, have been deployed on the streets of Tampa. I mean, we have upwards of close to 3,500 law enforcement personnel. The Guard is held in ready reserve. Obviously, climatic conditions, if they were to get really bad, would dictate that we would need more help. But at this point, they're largely just standing post on some of the government buildings inside the fences. The vast majority, Joe, and I would say probably 90 to 95% of the law enforcement related activities will be done by Tampa Police Department and our partners who have come in from elsewhere.
Great. And I have to ask you just visually, this is a question that always comes up at conventions. To the untrained eye, people out there in the country looking at this convergence of law enforcement and military, they're going to feel like Tampa's an armed camp.
Well, I mean, post 9/11, that is the world we live in. And, you know, I don't like it any more than anyone else does, but it is the reality in which we exist. And I would rather have more than less. I think an overwhelming show of support on the street is a good thing to deter those that might choose to make bad decisions. So whether their uniforms are camouflage or khaki, I want them on the streets, and I want that presence. Yeah.
Any traffic issues so far, now that the roads are closed and with the crosstown closing Monday? How's that going?
It's going well. I mean, it's going to take a day or so for the residents to get used to the new traffic patterns, or not. Tomorrow will be the big test for us. We know when the city comes back to work and back to life. Obviously, there's going to be some congestion. We've told people from day one there will be congestion. We hope they paid attention. They need to plan accordingly and accommodate their routes and their travel. It will be unlike anything we've ever done, and so there's going to be some issues. But traffic is like water; it's always going to find its way, and so it will take a day or two. And probably by the end of this convention, they will have figured out where to go, and then the streets will be open again.
The decision was made to remove the tents downtown. Is there any other things that may be moved for us?
The tents on the walkways?
Yes, I heard the tents was going to be removed.
Well, the large tents for the private parties, they are up, they are in place, they're secure. The decision, and I had not heard this, if indeed it happens to move some of the smaller tents that provide cover from here to the forum, I don't know whether that decision has been made. That would be an RNC decision. Yeah. Anybody else?
Mayor, as a result of the delay in proceedings, is the city's deployment of its resources changing at all today or tomorrow?
No. We are in full RNC mode. Our call centers have been up and running for 3 days, 24 hours a day. Solid waste crews are positioned off-site. We are executing the plan that we put in place, irrespective of the fact that there are no proceedings tomorrow. So we'll be ready for whatever occurs.
Any additional costs?
No. I mean, the normal things that we would go through with a storm occurrence like this, whether it's the sandbagging or some of the others, we would do that anyway. And so there's no cost over and above the normal reaction to a storm of this size that are attributable to the RNC. Yeah.
Is there any possibility that you ask the RNC members to cancel the Tuesday night of the convention?
I'm sorry.
Is there any possibility that you ask the RNC members to cancel the convention on Tuesday night?
No. That would be their decision, first and foremost. But I don't see any likelihood of that happening. I think this weather will blow through late Monday night. I think Tuesday is going to be fine. There may be some trailing bands, but in all likelihood, you're going to start to see the beautiful weather that we are known for. So I think Tuesday is going to be a very, very busy day inside the building. So Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday ought to be fine. This convention's just going to run smooth as silk.
When you have
Yes,
a
sir.
storm coming in, typically in your emergency command center, I assume you have one.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
What's the place, or what are the places you watch most carefully? Is it one of those bridges? Where are you watching to make sure you're not going to have a weather problem?
Well, from the city's perspective, which is the only jurisdiction that I have control over, obviously we watch the bridges. Storm surge is a big deal for us in those situations. Storm surge is where you see loss of life, loss of property. Obviously, the wind is an equally potentially damaging issue. The difference between this and New Orleans is the surge that we get comes in and then goes back out. It does not necessarily stay unless the storm hangs out in the Gulf of Mexico for a long period of time. So, the lower lying areas that traditionally flood in a storm surge situation will flood. Bayshore potentially would get some water, but generally it recedes pretty quickly. And as I indicated, we have not had a direct hit in 90 years. Now, hypothetically, you get a Cat 3 coming up the bay, downtown's 15 feet underwater. But that hasn't happened. It's not going to happen. And so, but we are prepared in the event that it did. Yeah. Rick?
What conditions would trigger an evacuation of Zone A?
A lot more than what we're experiencing. It would be a combination of things: wind, surge, location of the storm, length of the sphere, track. It would be any number of things before we would get to that decision point. But we're not. That's not even a remote possibility at this point. All right, everybody good? So we will be doing this every morning, Chief and I, 10:30, and so, we'll be here if you need us. Here. Same room, same time. All right. Thanks, everybody.